Director Vance's office door was shut, and inside that silence, one truth echoed louder than anything else. He was gone. It had started like any other case. A call from a Navy installation, a body found near the docks, suspicious circumstances, standard procedure. Gibbs wasn't here anymore, hadn't been for a while, but his presence still lingered in every rule they followed, every instinct they trusted. McGee had stepped into leadership naturally, not by replacing Gibbs, but by carrying forward what he'd taught them. "Grab your gear," McGee had said earlier that morning. "We've got a body." Nothing unusual, nothing that hinted at what was coming. The victim had been a petty officer, found with a single gunshot wound. Clean, professional, no witnesses, no obvious motive. The kind of case that demanded patience, intuition, and experience, and that's why he'd insisted on coming. "I'm not sitting this one out," he had said, already grabbing his coat. "Been doing this too long to watch from the sidelines." There had been no arguing with him. There never was. The docks were gray and unforgiving, the air thick with salt and the promise of rain. Police tape fluttered in the wind, snapping like a warning. He had stepped under it without hesitation. 18 years of service, and he still moved like the job had just begun, sharp-eyed, focused, unrelenting. "Victim's been here at least 6 hours," Knight reported, flipping through her notes. No sign of struggle. "Execution style," Torres added. "Whoever did this knew what they were doing." He crouched beside the body, studying it carefully. "Or wanted us to think that," he said quietly. McGee glanced at him. "You see something?" A pause. A flicker of something unreadable crossing his face. "Maybe," he replied. It should have been just another clue, just another lead. Instead, it was the beginning of the end. It happened fast, too fast. 1 second they were analyzing evidence, the next. A crack split the air. Knight flinched, Torres spun, weapon drawn. McGee's instincts kicked in, scanning for the source. But it was already too late. He staggered, just once, like his body hadn't yet realized what had happened. McGee's eyes widened. "No!" The second shot rang out. This one hit harder. More final. He collapsed before anyone could reach him. "Agent down!" Torres shouted into his calm, already moving. Knight dropped beside him, pressing her hands against the wound, her training overriding the shock. "Stay with me, you hear me?" McGee knelt on the other side, his voice shaking despite every effort to steady it. Hey, look at me. You're okay. We've got you." Blood spread beneath him, dark and relentless. His breathing was shallow, uneven, but his eyes were open, still fighting. "McGee," he whispered. "I'm here," McGee said quickly. "I'm right here." A faint, almost amused smile touched his lips. "Don't mess this up." It was so him, even now, even like this. McGee let out a broken laugh that turned into something else entirely. "Not the time." His gaze shifted, finding Torres. "Watch, you're 6." Torres swallowed hard, nodding once. Then he looked at Knight. There was something softer there, something unspoken. "Good agent," he murmured. Her hands trembled, but she didn't stop the pressure. "Save it. You can tell me later." A beat, a breath, and then nothing. The ambulance came, the siren screamed, orders were shouted, weapons drawn, suspects chased, but none of it mattered. Because the moment that defined everything had already passed, and no amount of urgency could undo it. The bullpen felt wrong. That was the only way to describe it. His desk was still there. His coffee mug sat exactly where he'd left it. A file lay open, mid-case, as if he might walk back in at any moment and pick up where he left off. But he wouldn't, and everyone knew it. McGee stood there longer than he should have, staring at that desk like it held answers. Torres finally broke the silence. "We're gonna find who did this." It wasn't a question, it was a promise. Knight nodded. "We don't stop until we do." McGee exhaled slowly, forcing himself back into the role he had to play. "No," he said. We don't. Because grief could wait. Justice couldn't. The case became personal in a way no one wanted, but everyone understood. Every lead mattered more. Every clue carried weight. They worked longer hours, pushed harder, refused to let exhaustion win. Because failure wasn't an option, not this time, not for him. For 18 years, he had been more than just an agent. He had been the anchor, the voice of reason. The one who kept things grounded when everything else spun out of control. And now that anchor was gone, which meant they had to become what he had been. Together. Memories hit at the worst times. McGee remembered his first day, nervous, unsure, trying to prove himself. And there he was, already established, already confident, offering guidance in that understated way of his. Torres remembered their arguments, sharp, heated, but always ending in respect. Knight remembered the quiet moments, the rare compliments, the trust earned over time. Each memory felt like a fragment of something bigger, something irreplaceable. It came late at night. A lead finally panned out, a connection between the victim and a private contractor with a history of black ops. The kind of people who didn't leave loose ends. The kind of people who would eliminate anyone who got too close, including an NCIS agent, including him. They knew he'd figure it out, McGee said, piecing it together. That's why they took the shot. Torres's eyes darkened. Then we make them regret it. The raid was precise, calculated, every move planned. They hit the location just before dawn, and this time, they were ready. The suspects didn't expect them, didn't expect the fury behind every step. The fight was quick, decisive, and when it was over, the man responsible was on his knees, hands cuffed behind his back. Torres stood over him, breathing hard. For him, he said quietly, the funeral was everything it needed to be, and nothing anyone wanted. Rows of agents, uniforms crisp, flags folded, the weight of loss hanging heavy in the air. McGee stood at the front, struggling to find the words. How do you sum up 18 years? How do you capture a life that meant so much to so many? You taught us, he began, his voice steady despite everything, that this job isn't just about solving cases. It's about people, about doing what's right, even when it's hard. He paused, looked out at the faces gathered there, and you never stopped doing that, not once. Torres stared straight ahead, jaw clenched. Knight wiped away a tear she didn't bother hiding. And we won't stop either, McGee continued, because that's what you would expect. That's what you deserve. The bullpen would never be the same. There would always be an empty space where he used to be, a silence where his voice should have been, but his presence didn't disappear. It lived on in every decision they made, every case they solved, every rule they followed. Because some people don't just leave behind memories, they leave behind a standard, and for 18 years. He had said it. Late one evening, long after everyone else had gone home, McGee sat at his desk. The lights were dim, the building quiet. He looked over at the empty chair one last time. Got it from here, he said softly. And for the first time since that day, the silence didn't feel quite as heavy, because even though he was gone, he wasn't really gone at all.